today, day 17 on the 30 minutes diary, 30 minutes a day for maximum well-being. The first thing that I want to say is just how miserable I feel, and it's just a deep pit in my stomach, misery, depression, all of this. And so one of the benefits of doing this diary for me, being aware that I have a bipolar-like pattern from kind of manic to depressive, is to see the length of the cycle, because a lot of my goals in the last while have been, I've just done them in little bursts, either over time or on a daily basis. So I'll just get a lot done in a day or so and then not be effective enough in those few days to be able to ride through my moods until the next burst. And so a 30-day diary has actually given, so it's been like 17 days between kind of peak up and down and up and down, and just seeing that. The other thing that it's really bringing home is the crunch point of all of these different projects and dreams. The crunch point is what happens for me at this juncture in my psychology, where all this stuff is coming out. And this is, this 30-day project is just one of about 7 different projects that I'm working on simultaneously, with my assistant and different media and all of that. And so I just get to be present for this point when I don't want to move, I don't want to breathe, I don't want to think, and it's just very, very tight and claustrophobic and small inside. And of course, this is that point where either everything gets abandoned or, in a variety of ways, forgetting, doing nothing, turning away, going to a new distraction. And so that's one of the more valuable aspects of doing a 30-day diary for me, is to see my cycle of energy for 30 days. So that's one reason I would suggest doing the 30-minute, 30-day diary for anyone, in part to get an accurate mirror, because this is the one consistent thing that I'm doing amidst traveling and all of that within 30 days. So that's on that note. Today finds me, tired, with a pit in my stomach, with panic, with depression, with fatigue, and not wanting to move. And of course, that's not then I don't want to make the video, of course, because who wants to talk about, this concept was to create an uplifting narrative. And so it feels, it feels like in a certain way like a failure. It's like I don't want to do anything. I don't want to, and so so then in a certain way the camera becomes my enemy, that I don't want to see this and I don't want other people to see this. And so That's part, I think, of the gift and the risk of committing to a protocol of any kind is it creates intimacy in a certain way, and in a more indirect sense, that's probably the biggest pivot towards well-being and stuff, because we all have patterns that bring out the best in us and that bring out the worst in us. We all have things that help us to succeed. We all have potential, and we all achieve a very small percentage of that potential. And so, and I think, anyone from, someone that's never achieved a single goal to Tony Robbins, who's, helped presidents and tens of thousands of people achieve many goals, I think most people would agree that relative to our potential, to Tony's potential, to my potential, to everyone else's potential, it's just not very much. And yet, on the other hand, it's an absolute miracle that with, 100,000 years ago, we were in the trees without language, without much technology, maybe even without fire. And, that's a heck of a lot of stuff to be debating with a piece of metal that's recording my image and sending it around the internet in 100,000 years. That's blink of an eye in evolutionary terms, and it's a point in stress and change and information overload and a real push. We've really pushed the physical technology envelope in the last 200 years, and yet we've made relatively small progress in mental and emotional health in the last 200 years. We've got some new drugs and this and that and the other, but we've also got more people in depression, more people with Alzheimer's, more people with schizophrenia, more people with anxiety than we've ever had in the history of mankind, because we're pushing our physical technology ahead of our ethical, emotional, and mental technology. And we're pushing mental technology significantly ahead of emotional technology, with an emphasis on material success and status. So it's a very imbalanced development in evolutionary terms, because we are 1/3 heart, 1/3 mind, 1/3 body. When we look at what is us, what defines you and I, it's heart, mind, body, in pretty much equal terms. And I think most people, if they had to decide between feeling amazingly joyful and wonderful, but in a sustainable way, if you could have a state of existence of ecstatic joy and wonder, but minimal scientific knowledge, or complete mastery of science with the mind in a state of absolute misery and agony, or an infinitely healthy body with no thought and no feeling, we'd all choose the ecstatic state, because at the core we are emotional human beings. It's when our body is diseased and stuff, we feel sad, we feel scared, and it's often it's the juxtaposition, it's often the awareness that we're in pain, that we can't control our reality, that creates the fear, the panic, etc. And so I think most people would ultimately, if they could flip a switch back and forth and choose between physical well-being and emotional suffering and and mental suffering, or mental excellence and emotional suffering and physical suffering, or emotional happiness and physical suffering and mental ineptitude, or just physical lack of skill, that we would choose to be sustainably happy in some way, particularly sustainably loving and loved in some way. And I think that suggests that learning about loving, learning about how to be loving and how to be loved, and teaching our science, our economy, our mind, our technology, our strategies, and our daily routine to create more of an experience of being loved and being loving, I think we will have a healthier, more sustainable, happier world. And given the fact that, if anything, it's overpopulation that is stressing the environment, it's not like we need to hurry up and build more houses or build more boats or build more cities. We need to hurry up and learn how to take care of the human hearts in the many billions of human beings that are being buffeted around in all this chaos, at varying degrees in the social pecking order. But, whether it's Larry Page or a beggar in the street in India, I think both of those human beings are ultimately challenged most with questions of meaning and position and relational safety. Are we safe? Can we love and be loved sustainably in this ecology, in this environment? So that's that's just part of the challenge that we're dealing with as human beings. And towards that end, today, what I've worked on is a template for high growth relationship. And I'll share the highlights with you and then make the post available. The highlights are choosing a partner who desires growth, taking stock of one another in some important areas, such as what makes a good friend, a deal breaker, what a great sexual relationship looks like, logistics. So about 14 things to take stock of, and forming a clear container for the relationship, designing a clear sense of what, a company is a container. It's a legal structure that supports people in producing something. A family is, again, a legal, clear definition of this. The family is defined of these people with these roles. You need when you cook, you need the container, the kitchen, the weather protection, the pot. To prepare and create something, you need a solid container. And so that's the next ingredient. A strategy of investing in joy, love, and pleasure. The different processes and ways of exploring transcendent states together. And how to deepen the love by creating a very unique culture, and how to end a relationship gracefully and for the right reasons in a way that is kind. when both people are no longer growing rapidly together. So this is my kind of project along those lines, and feel free to kind of read through it and pick out ways that you can use any element within the document to rapidly grow your existing relationships, or consciously create a new partnership in which you can grow.